Have you faced some big challenges in your life? You are not alone. Being inspired by others who have faced similar challenges is what helps shine light on your path. And here are those stories. Hi, I'm Greg Crawford, and welcome to the Challenge to Triumph Show. All right, we are back at another episode of the Challenge to Triumph Show. Yes, I'm playing some 80s music in the background because my next guest, we have something very big in common. We love the 80s. So before I introduce this man, I just want to quickly talk about how I first came to know him and hear about him, which was like way back close to around the 9/11 time when the internet was kind of like booming and getting stronger. And then I remember I was personal training in Manhattan in the city, and I was on my dad's computer doing like some searching around, and I found this website of how to grow your online strength and conditioning business. And at the time I was like, yeah, I want to do this. So I asked my dad if I could borrow his credit card at the time. And I bought the CDs. It was CDs that got shipped to your house.
Yep.
And I remember listening to the CDs, and it was this guy right here. And since then, that was how many years ago?
Well, that was at least 15 years ago.
Like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, I've been in touch with Ryan. I've gone to a bunch of his events. I've always been a big fan of his, always read his emails. That's the one thing he always preaches is, constant communication through email and building a connection with your list. And it's actually a really big honor for me to have him on this show because I know he doesn't do this a lot. So Ryan Lee, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Greg, I am excited, and thanks for that great intro. It's really cool to see someone like you and get to know you over these years. And you're right, it really is about building relationships and being consistent in your relationship building, and always trying to do the right thing. I mean, that really, and don't burn bridges, right? I think success is pretty damn simple. Everyone makes it more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah, I think it's all about being consistent with it, which you always preach. But Ryan's he cheers for the little guy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's one thing he stands for. And I know besides me, a lot of other entrepreneurs that are really working hard, trying to make it, really appreciate that, Ryan. So you're doing big things, and I know, and we're going to talk about what you're up to right now, towards the end. But the first question I want to ask you is, and I know you're not a big book reader. Well,
I actually, believe it or not, I actually am. I do like books, and I tend to listen to more than I read, but I listen to 1 to 2 a week. And I've read probably every business book there is, and a lot of personal development stuff too.
Your message was more like, don't just read the book, take action.
Right. That's the thing. Like I like reading. I read fast, but I take action on it, and I don't read just to sit and read, and I don't read to procrastinate.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing a lot of people do. They'll say, well, I can't do this until I read a book on it. And I can't do this and then they just keep reading and spending months and months and months and never actually doing anything. So You got to just learn from it.
So Ryan is the master of building a connection, especially through email, because you know how to write in a way that's more conversational, like you're speaking to the reader. And now that I'm working with a lot of gym owners, health professionals, I'm taking actually a lot from what I learned from you, Ryan, and trying to help them implement that, because what we're noticing now is everyone's looking for that fast, that fast sale right away. And they don't want to focus on the connection building on the back end, because not everybody's ready to say, oh, this is the perfect thing for me to buy. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to be your biggest fan one day. That's why it's so important to build the connection.
Yeah, it's everyone's in such a rush to, for everything, right? Not just business and making a sale, but in life and health. It's like, okay, all of a sudden tomorrow, I'm never going to, starting tomorrow, I'm never going to, or starting today, I'm never going to eat gluten, sugar, dairy, wheat, cookies. Like, and all of a sudden you go to this extreme where it's like, it doesn't have to be so extreme and it doesn't have to be so fast. Like you could take your time, you could ease into it. And yeah, in terms specifically of building relationships and making a sale, take your time. Like if, when I first met my wife, we met in college, we were juniors and we were really good friends for a year before we even went on a date. Okay, now we've been together 25 years, but it took a while. But it, I didn't right away, I didn't meet her that first night and then say, oh, let's get married. Like there's a process, and everyone's in such a rush.
I told my wife we were going on a vacation on first date.
Did you? Well, okay.
Yeah.
And then she filed a restraining order.
Yeah.
Look, everyone's got their own methods, and that works for you. But I like to
You like to
kind of
take
take
it slow. Got it.
and look at the long game,
Yeah.
because often when you rush it and there's high pressure, people buy, even if they do buy, they buy under stress, and then they have this buyer's remorse and they feel like they're pushed into it, and then they're never going to do business with you anyway again, and they're not going to tell people they know about you, and it ends there. So all that work and effort you did to attract someone into your life and into your business is now gone. So
Yeah.
I am all about long-term, like someone like you, Greg, 15 plus years. Like I'm not always pushing to do stuff. I'm like, hey, I have this thing, this workshop, do you want to attend? No, okay, that's cool. And other guys, if you didn't sign up for something, they'd remove you from the list. Oh, he's not a buyer, he's a tire kicker, and then you're gone.
Yeah. He's dead.
And, right, he's dead to me, and then they don't return your emails. And I've never been like that, whether you're paying me or not, because just that's not how I've been raised. I was raised to treat everyone well, from the if you go to a restaurant, from the owner of the restaurant to the person getting your bread and cleaning the table. You treat everyone the same. And treat everyone well and with respect. And that's why you said earlier, I'm a fan of the little guy. I've always been a fan of the underdog.
Yeah.
Always. Like it's just in my DNA. I can't help it.
So, I mean, Ryan, you're having a lot of influence on people right now. What was the influence on you? Like, was it a well-known author? Was it someone in your life?
No. Yeah, it was my dad, far and away. I mean, look, my mom too. I definitely hit the lottery when it came to parents, because they were just so loving and supportive. Like I always felt good. I felt, secure and safe, so I could take chances and do things. And seeing how my dad was an entrepreneur. He owned a yarn store, yarn and needlepoint of all things, for like 25 years.
So he got it. He got
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
'Cause not everybody has parents like that. A lot of parents want you to play it safe and get the job.
Right. Well, and look, he's definitely conservative. And even at the beginning, you say, well, why don't you just stay as a gym teacher and do this? And then you get, but as he started to see, because he doesn't like to take big risks, but what I learned from him is how to treat people well. Because when he goes into a room, he's still he's as of this recording, he's 72. He just, people are drawn to him. He's so friendly. And he would, when he was, running the business in his 30s, and all his customers were 60-year-old women, they loved my dad. And he just treated them and his employees like gold. And I saw that, and I saw how people reacted to him. And I'm like, that's the way you do it. Like, that's the way you live your life.
I remember you brought him on stage at Freedom Live when I was there.
Yeah. He goes to my events. He's my biggest cheerleader.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But, and it's funny, Greg, because I get asked that question a lot. Who are your mentors and who are the business people? Yeah. And what I realized from a young age, young meaning, starting my career and graduating college, and as I was reading these books and learning more about these quote unquote big name marketers and entrepreneurs, and I started seeing behind the scenes, because then I started speaking at these events, and I started seeing, a guy up there talking about personal development, and he's on his fourth wife, and doesn't, this other guy doesn't speak to any of his kids anymore. And look, everyone goes through crap, and people get divorced, and I'm not looking down upon them, right? I'm certainly not perfect, not even close, but I don't want to model my life after them. And I just knew, okay, I'm going to learn some of the business stuff. I'll pick one thing from this guy, one thing from this, but I'm not going to live my life like them. So I knew to separate kind of the business from the person in the family. Because for me, what my parents always taught me is family comes first, no matter what. Like that's it. That's everything. And I still live life like that.
So, okay, so the whole premise of this show is to go back to a point in your life where you were probably struggling a bit. It might have been health related, it might have been business related. We haven't spoken about what you're going to talk about today. I kind of have a feeling what direction you want to go in. Well, let's take the audience back to a time where you were really facing a big challenge.
So it was probably about 9 years ago. I had this great 10-year run with my business. My wife and I had just had our fourth kid. My business was generating millions and millions of dollars. I had this great, everything was going well. And it really, it felt quick at the time, although now looking back, I see it was the process of a couple of years. I call them now like my dark years. They were really, you said, struggle with health, struggle with business. I could check all the boxes. It was my business. We had one nutrition company that was doing 7 figures a month, and it just kind of crashed because our number one promoter left and started a competing company, and took everyone with him. So we went from making millions of dollars almost like within a month to now being millions of dollars in debt because we just had this huge inventory thing that we couldn't sell. So overnight. So I went from making all this money to now being millions of dollars in debt and not taking a paycheck. And while that was happening, I was getting more involved in this world of kind of internet marketing, and I was speaking on stages, and I was selling these products, and I was getting away from the core of who I was as a person. I didn't like the people I was hanging out with. I was traveling a lot because the way it worked was these guys would have an event. They'd put 500 people in a room. You'd get up, you'd do your talk, and then you'd sell. And if you sold $1,000 product, the person who put on the event would get 500, and I would get 500.
Right.
And you could do well. But I would get there the day before. I would get drunk till 3:00 in the morning. I'd speak hungover. It was just, everyone was drinking. It was just really not a great environment for me. So all that was going on. So my weight I started to gain weight. I wasn't working out as much. I was eating like crap. I was drinking. And then all of a sudden my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and it spread quickly. So she was diagnosed in December, and by April she was gone. So all of this, so between the business, between my health, my mom passing away, everything was just crumbling, and it was affecting the relationship with my kids, with my wife. I was starting to get depressed. It was like this kind of spiraling out of control. Then it manifested later on as an autoimmune disorder, because I think brought on by the bad eating and the stress. It was psoriatic arthritis, and it was painful to even walk. I could barely type.
You just said it manifested into itself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the doctor said I'm going to have to go on chemo. So it was like all of this stuff, just a couple of years of, and I was trying to put on a good face in public. People might not have realized it, although those who knew me for a long time started to sense something. And it's funny, I had a call 2 weeks ago with a longtime client, Alan Cosgrove. When I was the guy who kind of taught him the business stuff when he first started. And I talked to him 2 weeks ago. I hadn't spoken to him on the phone in a couple of years. We stay in touch through email. And he said, "You know what, Ryan, there was some time when your emails were really dark, and you were very angry. And even my friend Chris said to me, 'What's going on with Ryan? He seems really angry.'" So it was even starting to show itself through my marketing. I didn't realize it at the time, but
because you're disconnected.
Right. And I was just having manic episode. It was just a bad time.
Probably weren't sleeping at night.
Not great. Yeah, just everything was just out of whack between my nutrition, my sleeping, relationships, business, health, weight, just you name it. It was just, everything was out of alignment. So far from when I first started. My first job out of college, Greg, was working in a children's hospital. and that's where I spent 6 years. And going from that and working with kids with disabilities and like this amazing connection I had with these kids and all these lives that changed to like years later, this guy who would like binge drink and just bad relations. Like I didn't recognize the person I saw in the mirror. So
I
I knew I
understand
needed to
too.
change.
Yeah, and I understand what you mean with like your emails were like darker. Not that I remember your emails at the time, but I kind of went through something similar where like I went through something crazy with my business and I kind of lost my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And my emails were always upbeat, motivational, inspiring. And I actually couldn't write an email anymore. Like I just stopped writing emails because of that. So
Yeah. And that's it's funny. You just nailed it with those 3 words. You lost your voice.
mhm,
And that's exactly what it is.
yeah,
You lose your way, you lose your voice, you lose that, your essence, you lose I mean, I was losing my soul. I really,
yeah.
really was.
So so
Yeah.
like what's that defining moment where like you just grabbed yourself and said, this is it, like it's got to change.
Yeah. Well, it was just talking with my wife and deciding that, you know what, I need to like go see someone.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a psychologist and, got some testing done and all this kind of stuff and started to really look inside myself. I was almost like kind of suffering. You go through these, I was going through this thing where I was being put on this pedestal and I'd go to events and, granted, I was not famous by any stretch of the imagination. Don't get me wrong. I am not saying I was famous, but in this little world,
Mm-hmm.
if I spoke at an event in front of 500 people and everyone's at the bar after, you are kind of famous in that little thing, right? And everyone's coming over and buying you drinks. So
Oh
you
yeah,
start to,
I've seen it.
yeah, yeah. So you start to kind of drink your own Kool-Aid and so it took kind of going to psychologists and really looking deep within myself and becoming just more self-aware and saying, I'm not this person anymore. And just doing a lot of soul searching and getting back to what I need to do and who I need to focus on and focusing on my family. And the real thing for me, so I started to realize what was wrong. And then the solution was, let me simplify. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing to say, okay, I'm self-aware and all this stuff and start to know what's going on. It's like, okay, well now what the hell do you do? What action do you take? For me, it was simplification. So it was, let me simplify my finance stuff. Okay, so these debts I now have, let me pay them off, right? Let me simplify my business. Instead of trying to launch 30 new products a year, let me focus on one with recurring revenue. Let me focus all my energy on one thing that I know I could do well, that'll bring back the income. And let me learn from my mistakes and not rely on other people to drive my business and do traffic. Like if they drive it, great, but I'm not going to rely on them. Then simplifying my health. Let me start by winning the morning. What am I going to eat every morning and do the right thing? Simplify my fitness. Instead of trying to do all these different workouts and trying to push myself, and I would go to a CrossFit and I would go to this other gym, let me just do the one workout I know that works, which is my little 25-minute interval, which is a combination of walking on the treadmill because my joints were hurting from the arthritis stuff, and jumping off every couple of minutes and doing body weight push-ups, pull-ups, core work, and do that for 25 minutes a day.
By the
and
way,
that's all I do.
are you still running sprints?
Yeah, I go back to the track now and do some sprints.
Yeah. I
For
just
the
started.
first time in years.
Yeah, I just started back up with that too at the football field.
Oh, it's great. I mean, my legs were sore as hell the next day, but it felt really good.
Yeah.
I felt like because now I've lost about I'm only 5'8" and I was up to almost 200 pounds, and now I'm down to about 162. So I'm down like 35 pounds, back to the same weight I was when I was captain of my track team in college. And I felt like I was flying on the track. 35 pounds off your body will do it to you. So I simplified my nutrition. I simplified my fitness, simplified my business, and simplified my relationships. For about 6 or 7 years, I said no to every travel business thing. I don't care how much money it was worth. People would be like, oh my God, you got to see who's going to be there. This well-known celebrity business guy and this guy, this billionaire, and he wants to meet you and blah, blah, blah. But it's in Vegas. I said, nope. They're like, Ryan, are you serious? No, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
but you could get these deals. I said no. So I simplified and put my family first, and I was not going to miss one birthday party, one event, one talent show, one sports event, one nothing. And that was it. And it started to, like, slowly but surely, my business started to come back. My relationship with my wife now has never been better. My relationship with my kids is amazing. I end my day by 3:30. My health, I'm back to the same weight and pant size I was in high school and college. And I just feel like my marketing's, I feel just happy and at peace. And at almost 46, I feel like I've knocked like 20 years off my body. So I'm ready,
Yeah,
man.
it's like,
I'm ready for this. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you lightened up the load, and
Yeah.
that's what gave you the momentum to get back and stay in that flow now.
Right. And it was just figuring out what the most important things were. It was, for me, it was like, if I look at it as kind of three big buckets: my family, my fitness, which is like my physical and my spiritual fitness. And some people might, whatever you want to call it. Some people are
Sure.
spiritual. Some people want to meditate. Some people religion, whatever works for you. Right. And
Mhm.
then my finances, getting that shit, because those are the three biggest things. Because if one is out of whack, like, you can have a great relationship with your family, and you can have the religion, and you can have your health and fitness. But if you're under financial pressure all the time, that kind of sucks. So I think
Stress
we
on
all
everything.
three, right. So simplifying all three, and just, trying to just make good decisions, to just do the right thing, and saying no a lot more, saying no to a lot.
Well, thanks for saying yes to this.
Yeah, it's funny. We even before we started recording, I said to you, look, I don't do a ton of these.
I know you don't. I appreciate
Uh,
that.
no, it's my pleasure. And I like it. And I knew, Greg, you were going to do a good job. What I don't want to talk about anymore is, like, how to build the membership site. I'm done
Yeah.
doing that stuff.
Right.
I like it. But when you said, hey, we can talk about overcoming challenges, like, that's all I'm about now, is helping people live a better life. That's it.
Yeah. Well, unless you get out of your own way and get inspired by people that have been where you are, then knowing how to build a membership site is not going to make a difference unless your mindset is, in that place where you're ready to take action and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what this is about,
Yeah. It's, and everyone's like, well, what membership, what do I charge? And, what about Facebook traffic? And what pixel do I retargeting? Like, none of that matters unless
No,
you
I
get
mean,
your head right. And people don't realize, but that's not the stuff they want to hear. And Greg, that's not the stuff that sells, because that's not the sexy stuff.
you could sit in your house for 15 years all day, every day, studying this stuff, and you're not going to get anywhere unless, you get
Yeah.
your mind right and you move and you actually, like, take the right steps and take the
And,
action every
and
day.
you'd be shocked how many people do exactly what you just described: sit in their house for 10, 15 years and study and study and study marketing and study the stuff, and never actually do anything.
Yeah.
And yes, look, first thing you always have to do is look in the mirror and take responsibility. Everything that I screwed up and almost lost, 100% my responsibility. I don't blame anyone else. With that being said, at least in the business space, though, especially in the entrepreneurial training space, there's also a lot of bad information, and there's a lot of very smart, slimy people who are looking to take advantage of you. Because here's what will happen: you'll go to them and you say, "Oh, I have this idea for this membership site," and it could be the worst idea in the world, and they'll say, "Oh, sounds like a great idea. I'll coach you, and it's just $15,000." Like, 15,000? Well, I don't have 15,000. Well, could you open up a couple credit cards? Like, this is exactly what they do. Or
Right.
I get on with them and they tell me the idea. I'd be like, look, it's not going to work. I'm not going to take your money because I can't ethically do that. And some people will listen and they'll shift and they'll adjust and they'll be like, thank you so much. You saved me so much time and effort. I appreciate it. And some will get upset with me because I'm not being a yes man. And
Mhm.
then they'll run off to the next guru, who's waiting for them with open arms for, a $10,000 or $15,000 fee. So it's, it's tricky.
Yeah. And what it comes back down, and, like, I'm, like, really seeing this more than ever right now, is just building connection again. Like, you
Mhm.
could try to trick someone into buying, you could try to trick someone into becoming a lead, but it really comes down to building a connection.
Yep.
And that's what you've mastered over the years. And that's why now you're on to even another huge venture that is pretty shocking. Let's talk about that.
So, so a new company I'm building, and I said to myself, I need to focus, and I'm not going to even think about doing anything else or any other company or any other business till I have one up and running for a few years and have proof of concept and everything's going well. So I built this company called Freedom, and everything's been going well. It's been up for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
Recurring revenue. We have thousands of members. Everything's great. But since I went through this health transformation, especially the last year and a half, because I started to gain a little bit of weight back, I wasn't really I was getting off my nutrition, and it was just becoming complicated. So since I really got it dialed back in, and super simplified things, it for me, the difference was in the morning having a good routine and having a good bar, a nutrition bar. But I couldn't find a good one. So I was having just different ones because I knew if I win the morning, that'll carry over into the afternoon, into the day, and a much better chance to succeed. So I'm like, but there's a gap. There's not a good nutrition bar that's a green bar that also has antioxidant fruit, that has good protein, that's not whey because the dairy is inflammatory and it bothers my joints. That's something that's gluten-free, something that doesn't have artificial sweeteners like sucralose, something that doesn't have, they'll say it's 1 gram of sugar, but they'll have 15 grams.
Yeah.
And then they 15 grams of sugar alcohol, and it's all this crap. So
it's so hard to find foods
impossible.
that aren't tainted.
Impossible. So I'm like, this is interesting. Why don't I just create one? So that's what I went. So for the past 8 months, I've been working on creating this bar. I'm calling it a super bar. So if someone says like, oh, how is it like a protein? Well, it's not like a protein bar. It's a super bar. So it's called Rewind.
Yep.
And we're launching with a bar, and then we're going to do a couple of really good drinks. One of our drinks has 24 fruits and vegetables in it. Really, really good stuff. And it's Rewind because it's about rewinding, the years,
rewind back.
Yeah, and we're going to kind of have fun. And I wanted to have a health company that's fun. That's not so serious all the time. That's not, you can't out organic other companies, right? But we could play. So we talk about, 70s, 80s, 90s music and movies and TV, kind of have fun with it. We do it with a little bit of a wink. So that's it. Yeah, it's called Rewind, and the site is rewindtoday.com. And we're going to have the bar, a couple of drinks, and we're going to kind of see where it goes from there. But and I'm setting up a whole facility where we're going to do all of our warehousing and fulfillment. Yeah, we're going to do workshops. I've been volunteering at a local high school here. It's a high school in the city of Stamford for the kids who, it's an alternative high school, so they couldn't make it in the regular public schools.
Right.
So they're more at risk kids. And I've been going there teaching them entrepreneurship, and they've been coming to my events for free. So I have a whole space there we're going to set up, and I'm going to do free workshops for them, teaching them entrepreneurship. I'm going to do workshops for the public. So it's going to be just we'll have arcade machines. Like, it's just going to be a fun, cool space. It's like my man cave.
Yeah, that's so smart because you're right. You're not competing against who's more organic, more green, who's got more antioxidants. You have a story behind the bar, and there's brand behind it, and there's, you're going to attract a certain type of person that loves the 80s, the 90s, and is into all that. And then the other great thing too is with your warehouse location is, you're always launching live events and you love connecting with people live. So I'm sure that's going to help cover a lot of the overhead expense for the nutrition company.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That alone should be a really good profit source. Because I already have the space.
How many square feet do you have?
It's almost 1,300 square feet.
Okay.
But it's one big wide open space.
Yeah.
And there's a second floor right above it, which is also going to be empty, which I can take over if I want. I'm not sure if I don't know if I'm going to need it because we're not going to have a lot of SKUs. We don't have millions and millions of products. There's a handful of products. The products are small. How big is a bar? You could fit, in 1,000 square feet, you could fit, hundreds of thousands of products. So I'm not worried about outgrowing it. And it'll be a good amount of space to have workshops for, 30, 40 people.
That's awesome. I know you got one coming up, I think maybe in September, right?
In September, yeah, we're gonna do a mastermind, a 2 day. And that's gonna be fun. And I'm looking to do some more things.
All right.
And
I might have to jump
yeah,
into that one.
come on in. The water's fine.
Save me a rewind bar.
You got it.
Ryan Lee, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show, telling your story. You know, everybody looks at guys that are doing well, they're successful, like they're helping coaching other people, but everyone at some point, you know, went through their own struggle and their own challenge. And
Yeah.
you're a perfect example of like how to come out of that and how to, you know, take stuff off your shoulders, simplify, get back to focusing on family, fitness, your body, and just simplify your business and move forward.
That's it. It's a pretty, you know, maybe we're going to overuse the word simple. It's a pretty simple process, but just start with one thing, you know, eliminate the non-essential and figure out what's most important for you. You know, for me, it's my wife and my 4 kids. And for someone listening to this, they may say, well, I'm not married and my big thing is I want to travel more. Okay. So make that your priority. So build your business and your life and your health around that stuff. Like I'm not judging. Everyone has different things. So just go for it and surround yourself with positive, supportive people who lift you up, not try to bring you down. And just because you went to high school with someone, if they're always negative and you don't like the way you feel around them, there's no law saying you have to always hang around them. I know it's hard, but you know, just surround yourself with uplifting people.
Exactly. I mean, that's always helped me, and I swear by this every day.
Yep, that's it. And I appreciate you having me on, Greg, and I love the stuff you're doing. So keep on getting out there, and let's get everyone listening to this show.
This might be the next Hay House show, the Challenge to Triumph show.
You mean Hay House might be the next Challenge to Triumph show? You have it reversed.
Yeah, exactly.
Because one thing they can't be is Greg Crawford.
That's right.
There's only one.
Well, there's multiple places to stay in touch. Follow Ryan. You could join Freedom, which is for small business owners that want to learn how to build a lifestyle business. So you could go to freedom.com. That's FREEDYM.com. And then the Rewind is the health company with antioxidant, super healthy bars. What's the website, Ryan?
That is rewindtoday.com.
Rewindtoday.com. And I'm going to have all those links on the blog and the show notes. So there's multiple ways to stay connected with Ryan. Definitely get on his email list. I can't promote that more than ever. So,
I appreciate it, man.
Ryan, I know you're a busy guy. I want to let you go. And again, thanks for coming on. This was great.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And everyone listening, I wish you the best. And man, just keep living a good life. Have a good one.
Take care, everybody. Hey, if you love the show, make sure to keep following us on iTunes. It's the Challenge to Triumph show. And also head over to challenge2triumph.com and follow the journey. Stay a part of the journey. I'll be sending you some really valuable emails and keeping you up to date with who the next guest will be on. So let's stay connected. And if you got a lot of value out of this show, please go over to iTunes and leave a positive review. It would really help boost the show. And thank you so much for listening. Take care.